this is a topic that I care a lot about because I lead a movement, really, of designers, innovators, entrepreneurs, marketers, including a lot of planners and strategists, who want to use their skills and talents to do work that makes a more positive impact on, yes, people and planet, but also critically, I think, on business as well. And so in order to answer this question, what's the point of brand purpose? I feel like I really need to start by kind of defining what brand purpose means. Because like a lot of marketing jargon, I think that it's one of those phrases, it's really ill-defined. And I've come across definitions like, I guess some of the most concise ones are a reason to exist beyond making a profit. And then there's Simon Sinek's pithy and ever popular why. And frankly, for me, those are just a bit too vague and end up leading to purposes that look a little bit like this. So these are the published brand purposes of a major retailer, an FMCG company, and a drinks company. Three completely different businesses who remarkably have very similar sounding purposes. And I mean, you've got to ask, what brand does not want to make people's lives better every day, right? How can something quite so anodyne serve as an organizing principle to help drive business decisions? And I think the answer really is it can't. Now, this is easy. So who wants to shout out what brand has this purpose? Marie knows. It's Dove. Yes, obviously, that's Dove. So Dove's purpose could be to make every morning more beautiful. But that could really be any personal care brand's purpose. It could be any breakfast cereal's purpose, really. The purpose that they do have, which is essentially all about helping women realize their full potential. Now, that arguably, I think, is a more worthwhile goal and a more sort of unique stance. And I would bet that most of you in the audience, even without having seen the earlier presentation, could have guessed that that was Dove. But I think we could also say that something like making every morning more beautiful could arguably be a reason to exist beyond making a profit. And so that's why I want to define brand purpose as a social mission that makes business sense. Because for me, actually, those two things are not in any way in opposition. My definition of brand purpose is a specific, not general, ambition to improve the well-being of people and planet while still driving the commercial success of a business. So with that definition, I mean, really, for me, the whole point of brand purpose is to grow a successful business. If there is one thing that I would want you to remember from what I'm talking about this evening, it is this, which is if making a difference isn't making you money, you are doing it wrong. Definition of a successful business, obviously, is a company that has loyal customers, committed staff, that has a viable future beyond just the next few quarters, and obviously that is making money. But unfortunately, the typical corporate approach to purpose, I would say, has been pretty pointless. And I want to show you this. So that actually happened. The team at Giorgio Armani sat down and said, we need a purpose. Well, aqua means water. I guess water is blue. Hey, I have a friend at Pantone. I know. Why don't we solve the water crisis by creating a new and exclusive blue? It's obviously had very little effect on sales, as you would imagine. Obviously on people who need water. Even consumers at large kind of barely know about this. I think to their credit, this happened in 2013 and they're still doing it. So Aqua for Life lives on for life, apparently. But even their staff didn't really know about it. And in those 4 years, I think this video's had something like 22,000 views on YouTube. So the reason why the typical corporate approach to brand purpose has been pretty pointless is because it's either all talk and no action, or it's action that doesn't really make any sort of commercial sense, or it's action that lacks any credibility or integrity to the degree that it feels a bit like deception. So that's just one of the many examples, and often many more sort of visual examples of brand purpose gone wrong. But I don't think that we can look at brands that have done it wrong and conclude that there's no way to do it right, or that brand purpose is pointless and has no value. That's a little bit like looking at brands' digital activities in the early days of the internet or social media, when frankly they were all a bit rubbish, and concluding that there was no point to digital, right? If we look at a few examples of what works, then I think we start to see how we can actually do this right. Some of the examples I think we don't hear about quite as often because they do tend to come from sort of smaller, more entrepreneurial, newer brands. But then again, that was where some of the best examples of digital came from early on. So I want to talk you through some of those examples. And this one obviously is one that we might have heard of before. This is Tesla. So Elon Musk's ambition is to build a business, to build an automotive company that solves climate change. I mean, that's pretty huge. And he does that by offering a high-performance car that just so happens to also be electric. So he's building a business that solves a customer's problem while also solving a problem in their world. So I want a car that I can show off with. And I happen to also kind of at least think about what comes out of the tailpipe. And this is what is happening with Tesla's market cap. So a company that's valued more highly than GM and Ford, two of the biggest car companies in the world. This is another example. So Method, they are a brand of household cleaners that wants to tackle pollution by offering customers well-designed and effective cleaning products that just so happen to also be non-toxic and biodegradable. So again, a business that is solving the customer's problem and also having an impact on the world around the customer. I want to have a clean house, and I define home as being beyond just my front door. And this is a chart from an article in Bloomberg titled "The Rise of Eco-Friendly Consumer Products Puts Pressure on P&G," all about how they're under so much pressure from brands like Method that investors are kind of saying, what are you going to do about this? And for me, this is a really big wake-up call for major brands. Because behind these early movers like Tesla and like Method, there is a huge wave of mission-led brands that are building businesses that both solve a problem for the customer and for the world around them, and that are starting to knock on the doors of major brands as a result, and are starting to challenge the industry incumbents. And those businesses can either continue to see their market share eaten away by those brands, or they can learn from them. So what can we learn from them? What all of those brands do really well is align these three things: commercial ambition, customer benefit, and social mission. And most successful brands do the top two pretty well, right? They're successful businesses because they have, an inherently good proposition that people care about. And so the question then is there a social mission that you can take on that will enhance and amplify your customer benefit in order to ensure that you continue to be commercially successful? That's the beginning of a sort of modern, thoughtful brand promise. But of course, that's not enough. We need to make sure that that brand promise is delivered across every aspect of the business. And these are 3 Ps that marketers, I think, often forget. How is the product made? What is the customer's experience with that product? And how does everybody who works for the business make sure that that brand promise is delivered? And I think often the focus is on that sort of the 4th P, of course, that's not up there, which is promotion. In order to get to that stage, I think that we have to get these 3 things right first in order to have the sort of credibility and authenticity that's needed to make the advertising and the comm stuff stick and make any difference or for anybody to even care. So for me, this is kind of the basis of building a thoughtful and a purposeful brand from now on. And it's be interesting, live the truth, and tell the truth in that order. And lest you think that this is some sort of millennial, new agey mumbo jumbo stuff, this is basically paraphrasing John Wanamaker, the 19th century marketer, who famously said, "Half of the money I spend on advertising is wasted, but I never know which half." So this has been around for a long time, way before brand purpose. And I think will be around for a long time because for me, it's just kind of basic good marketing. So if we really want to make things that make a difference, I think we need to make money by making a difference. That's why we're bringing together brands and their agencies with mission-led startups so that they can learn how they actually do what they do really well, while also learning the business and entrepreneurial skills that they need in order to continue to be effective and successful, rather than having their lunch eaten by these brands tomorrow. So my conclusion is does brand purpose have a point? Yes, but